Hi there and welcome to another video from Faraz Maths. It's Mr. Faraz Hassan here, and in this video we are learning simplifying expressions by factorizing 2. So previously on Faraz Maths, we already know how to factorize. Okay, so if we factorize this expression, it would become, because in between 2 and 6 the highest common factor is 2, and in between x square and x you have to identify the lowest power, and this one it has the lowest power, x here. So 2x is the HCF. Now you have to make the bracket. 2x times x is 2x square. 2x times minus 3 is minus 6x. Okay, the next one is the same. You can do 2y times y minus 3. Now come to this question. 2 bracket x minus 5 whole square minus 6 bracket x minus 5. If you look at closely, it is the same pattern as we did these questions. So 2 bracket x minus 5, it means I am taking this one as suppose y. Okay, so it will look like the same thing, 2y square minus 6y, and the same answer will come 2y and then y minus 3. But in actual, it was not y, it was x minus 5. So you have to substitute y as x minus 5. So we can write 2 bracket x minus 5. And then we have to make a square bracket, and in the place of y we can substitute x minus 5 and then minus 3. Close the bracket. So the last step would become 2 bracket x minus 5, and then in the square bracket it would be like x minus, open this bracket, and then it would be like x minus 5 minus 3. So our final answer would become 2 bracket x minus 5 and then x minus 8. Coming to the next question, factorize fully. 5 bracket y minus 1 whole square plus 10 bracket y minus 1. So what you have to take common in between y minus 1 and y minus 1 whole square. So you have to take y minus 1 as common there, and in between 5 and 10 you have to take 5 as an HCF. Y minus 1 is also an HCF. Now you have to make the bracket, make the square bracket, and then start from this, from 5 bracket y minus 1 to the power of 2. We already take it out, 5 bracket y minus 1. So that's why y minus 1 power 1 will left inside the bracket, right? And then plus 5 is already outside. 5 times what will give you 10? 5 times 2 will give you plus 10, and y minus 1 is already outside, so there is no need to write this y minus 1 and then close the bracket. So 5 bracket y minus 1, and then in the next bracket we have to open the bracket y minus 1 plus 2. Usually we do not write power 1 on the bracket. Close the bracket. 5 bracket y minus 1 and then y minus 1 plus 2 is plus 1, and that's our answer. If it is confusing for you, you can do in another way also. Okay, what's the another way? So let's say that y minus 1 is x. X equals to y minus 1. Now what you can do, you can just put the value here 5, and then y minus 1 is what? X, but there is a square on it, so we can write 5x squared, then plus 10, and then again y minus 1. Y minus 1 is x. Now taking x common there and 5 common, so 5 and x is common and it is the HCF. Now make the bracket. It will look like this, 5x bracket x plus 5 2s are 10, and there is x already outside, so we have to close the bracket. Now what you have to do, you have to just replace x by y minus 1. So if you replace x by y minus 1, it will look like this, 5 bracket y minus 1. So there is already bracket, so we have to make a square bracket for it because we are substituting x. So if for x we have to make a round bracket and then close it, and then plus 2, and then make the square bracket again. Now 5 bracket y minus 1, and now open this bracket. It will be y minus 1 plus 2, and then 5 bracket y minus 1, and then y minus 1 plus 2 is y plus 1. So that's our answer. Now you can use the round bracket because we solved it. So you can do it in this way also. Okay, coming to the next question. So we already know how to factorize 5 bracket y minus 1 whole square plus 10 bracket y minus 1. In the last slide we already did this. Now we are doing another question, and it is 10 bracket y minus 1 whole square plus 5 bracket y minus 1. So what we have to do, we have to take HCF first between numbers. In between 10 and 5 the HCF is 5, and in between y minus 1 whole square and y minus 1 power 1 is the HCF. Okay, you have to just keep whole bracket and then make a square bracket. 5 bracket y minus 1. Now you have to start it from here. 5 times what will give you 10? 5 times 2 will give you 10, and there is y minus 1 power 1 outside the bracket. So if you multiply y minus 1 raised to the power of 1 with y minus 1 raised to the power of 1, you will get y minus 1 whole square. Then plus 5 bracket y minus 1 power 1 is already outside, and there is 5 bracket y minus 1 power 1. So it means we have to write 1 there, because if you multiply this whole thing by 1, you will get this. Now close the bracket. Now we have to write 5 bracket y minus 1, and usually we do not write power 1. And then you have to multiply 2 with y and 2 with minus 1. So that is 2y minus 2 and then plus 1. So 5 bracket y minus 1, and then you can make a round bracket. 2y minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1, and that's our answer. You can do it in another way also. So another way to do this question, if it is confusing for you, what you can do, you can take x as y minus 1 in the place of y minus 1. So I can write 10 and x, because x is what? Y minus 1, and there is a square on it, so I can write a square there, and then plus 5. Y minus 1 is what? X. Now in between 10 and 5 the highest common factor is 5. In between x square and x the highest common factor is x. So make the bracket. 5 times what will give you 10? 5 times 2 will give us 10, and then x times x will give us 10x square. 5x times what will give you 5x? 5x times plus 1 will give you 5x. But in the question, we do not have x. What we have? We have y minus 1. We replaced it by x. So what you have to do? You have to substitute it back again. So if I substitute it back again, I can write 5, and in the place of x I can write y minus 1. Make the bracket y minus 1. Now make the square brackets, and then we have to write 2 there, and in the bracket the value of x which is y minus 1, and then plus 1. Close the bracket. Now you have 5 bracket y minus 1, and then again you have to multiply 2 with y, 2 with minus 1, so that will give you 2y minus 2 plus 1, and then in the last step we can write 5 bracket y minus 1, and then 2y minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1, and that's our answer. Okay, coming to the next question. So in the last slide we already did this one. Now that's a different question. 10 bracket y minus 1 whole square minus 5 bracket y minus 1. So there's a negative sign, so you have to do it in the same way. So from 10 and 5 the HCF is 5, and in between y minus 1 whole square and y minus 1 power 1 is the HCF. You always have to identify the lowest power, and that is the HCF. Now make the bracket, and 5 times what will give you 10? 5 times 2 will give us 10, and then y minus 1 power 1 is already outside, so if you multiply it by y minus 1 to the power 1 you will get 10 bracket y minus 1 whole square. And then here you have to use the negative sign, because it is negative 5 bracket y minus 1, and then write 1 over there, because if you multiply 5 bracket y minus 1 with negative 1 you will get this thing. Now 5 bracket y minus 1, and then if you multiply 2 with y and 2 with minus 1, that will give you 2y minus 2 minus 1, close a bracket, then 5 bracket y minus 1, then 2y minus 2 minus 1 is minus 3. That's our answer. Okay, coming to the next one. So we already did this one. 10 bracket y minus 1 whole square minus 5 bracket y minus 1 in the last slide. So again, you have to do the same thing. You have to take the HCF in between 10 and 5, which is 10 in between y minus 1 to the power of 1 and y minus 1 to the power of 2. Y minus 1 to the power of 1 is the HCF, and then make the bracket. Start from here. 5 times what will give you 10? 5 times 2 will give us 10. And because y minus 1 power 1 is already outside, so you don't need to write y minus 1 there. And then negative sign, and there is 5, so we have to write negative 1, and y minus 1 power 1 is already outside, so you have to write y minus 1 to the power of, and close the bracket. Now 5, usually we do not write power 1 on the bracket, and don't subtract 2 minus 1, okay? You have to multiply minus 1 with y first, and then minus 1 with minus 1, and you can do it only when the power is 1 there. And usually we do not write power 1 on the bracket. So minus 1 times y and minus 1 times minus 1. We have to do this. So minus 1 times y is minus y, minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1. Close the bracket. Then 5 bracket y minus 1, and then 2 plus 1. You have to add these two numbers. They are like to each other. So it is 3 and then minus 1. That's our answer. Okay, coming to the next. That's the last question. Pause the video and try this question by yourself. Okay, in this question, if you look at the numbers 15 and 7, so there is no highest common factor except 1 in between 15 and 7. So we have to check the HCF in between the variables or in the brackets a plus 2 and a plus 2 power 2. So identify the lowest power. A plus 2 has the lowest power, so a plus 2 is the HCF. Now you have to make the bracket, and then a plus 2 times what will give you 15 bracket a plus 2. A plus 2 times 15 will give you this thing, the first term, and then minus 7, and then a plus 2 power 1 is already outside. So if you multiply it by a plus 2 power 1 also, so it will give you a plus 2 whole square. And usually we do not write power 1. The next step would be a plus 2, and then do not subtract 15 and 7 because that's the mathematical mistake. You have to multiply negative 7 with a and negative 7 with plus 2. So 15, then minus 7a, and then minus 7 2s are 14. Then a plus 2. Now 15 minus 7a minus 14, you can do the numbers only. 15 minus 14 is plus 1. So you're left with 1 minus 7a. And now you can change the brackets because we are not using the round bracket inside the square bracket. So now you can change the bracket, and that's your answer. So that's it for this particular video. Thanks for watching. We will continue from the next.